Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to another coffee session. Very happy to have you back once again. Again, excited for today's guest that we've got. We've got Kevin Hinton with us from the Collaborative Exchange, or maybe if you haven't heard about that name before, you'll definitely have heard about the investment forums and meet the managers and those kind of events. Well, that's Kevin and his team. So yeah, happy to have him here today. He's got some interesting stories and information and things to share with us. And also then at the end to sort of get, how can we use content and different ways of communicating with our clients and having real conversations with them. So really excited to have him here. I'll introduce him to you in a second. But first of all, welcome to each one of you. I hope you're doing well. I realized yesterday that I haven't really asked in about a week or so, how are you doing? Are you good? Is your family good? Everybody, well, because things are moving along, and it's like, we're getting used to this whole lockdown thing. So we shouldn't stop asking, how are you doing? I'm doing great. My family's doing great. We're really blessed in that sense. But I hope that you're well as well. And thanks again for being here this morning. So let me give some quick shout outs this morning. So Raymond was first in the house here on YouTube. Good morning, Raymond. Thank you for being here. If Barnett is with you, please say hi to her as well. Arun, good morning. Welcome here. Nice to have you back once again. Malcolm Hendricks as well. All the regulars. Francis, Nietling, Mora, Francois and community. Good morning. Nice to have you here. Hanuri, welcome back. I think yesterday was your first one where you said hi, so thank you very much for being back and also for sort of connecting with me in other places. I appreciate it. Almin Lottering, welcome back to you as well. Neil Stradom, welcome back. Neil, you are now for sure a regular. So is Razan. Razan, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Razan likes to switch between LinkedIn and YouTube, and then, keep it interesting. So well done for that. Malcolm says 230 subscribers, not too shabby. Yes, thank you, Malcolm. I must say, so what happened yesterday, we were on 198 subscribers, and then we did that live stream yesterday for the SME relief measures that's available, and from there we jumped from 198 to 230. So yeah, it was an interesting thing. We had 4,300 views on that live stream as well. So it's really been amazing. The recording is already available. There is an email that went out to everybody that registered this morning with the link, but you can find it on my YouTube channel. Just scroll down when you get to the page, and under upload, you'll see it there. Yaku, good morning. Welcome. Bongi, welcome back. Khomotso, once again. Nick Dacker, I say building up credits, getting back to a regular. Stephen L, good morning. Welcome back. I appreciate it. So yeah, happiness. I'm really happy for all of you to be here. And let me just jump on over to LinkedIn quickly. Good morning, Shlanganani and Surieta. Kirsty, welcome back. Terence, welcome. Alan from Cadis, welcome. Louis Juster, welcome. Louis, nice to see you here again. Higu, welcome. Then I've got Navita, first time I've seen you here, or the first time maybe you've said hi, but however, it doesn't matter. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Ronnie Els, welcome back. Neil Phillips once again, and Peter Stradom. So that's everybody that's saying hi over on LinkedIn. So guys, in the chat, as I said, just say hi when you get in, and engage with everybody in here. You can chat on YouTube with us. There I can bring it onto the screen and we can answer your questions, etc. And I want to encourage you to ask questions if you've got questions, please, while I'm here and Kevin's here, so that we can answer these questions. Even if it's things that's maybe not related to what we're going to be talking about today, please feel free to do that. And if you are over on YouTube, please subscribe if you're getting value from this. And then also, at least give us a like, if this is some great content, as well as on LinkedIn, if you can react to the video. I love it to sort of see the thumbs up and the hearts and the hand clapping and everything just going up the screen. It looks quite cool. So thank you very much for that, if you're helping us in that sense. Alrighty, so good morning, Carl van Vieren. Welcome. You sneaked in just in time here. Welcome, Carl. Nice to have you back once again. And so let me just get into this. So I don't want to waste too much time this morning with all the greetings and everything. I'm really thankful for each and every one of you being here. I hope you've got a fresh coffee. I had my coffee before I came into the studio. So unfortunately, I don't have a fresh one with me, and that's okay. I'll make it. Yeah, what I wanted to say is, like, I need to get into the conversation with Kevin. There's quite a lot that we want to cover, and so I'm not gonna belabor everything too much going forward. The last thing that I just want to remind you of before I do that is the podcast episode that I did with Hugo van Zyl, where we did an update on the expat tax issues and things that are now being discovered and realized as things moved on, because remember, this is now in effect from the 1st of March. So really something that you want to look at. So just again, let me just take off this banner here, because otherwise you can't see what I'm actually trying to tell you. So you can go to the website at propulsion.co.za/EP21. You'll find it there, or just search for Propulsion on your favorite podcasting platform. So you can do that. All right. Then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy this morning to introduce to you Kevin Hinton. Kevin, welcome to coffee, my virtual coffee show. I'm really happy to have you here, and thank you for agreeing to be with us this morning. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, well, so thank you very much indeed, Francois. And perhaps I can give a shout out at the outset to say that if there's anybody listening that was due to attend the 2020 Investment Forum, I'd like to sort of use this opportunity to sort of formally apologize for not being able to do it in person. But yeah, we did make a plan, as South Africans always say, "Boer maak 'n plan." So, we did exactly that. And hopefully those that weren't able to attend the conference in person have had access to some of the data we've actually put on SAST TV, which is profound, I must say. I've never seen content produced at a level of this at this level, for some time. Some really, really good material on SAST TV that we've actually repurposed in a digital format.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm going to get to all of that because I want to talk about that. But maybe just, Kevin, for those people that don't know you and that don't know exactly what the Collaborative Exchange is, can you sort of just do a brief introduction about yourself and then obviously the Collaborative Exchange and what it is that you do?
Sure. Thanks, Francois. So, I've been in financial services for the last 30 odd years. I worked in various corporate organizations. I started my career, funny enough, with the Cyprus Group. So that was prior to the formation of Coronation Asset Management. So I worked with the founders of Coronation Asset Management. But prior to that, in fact, I also worked for an entity called Technical Management Assignments. We were, in fact, the early founders of the linked investment services platform in South Africa, where UL Merchant Bank, in fact, was disrupting the life offices in those very early days and brought out things like the Guaranteed Capital Trust and the living annuity concept. So very fortunate to having worked, with some, champions of the industry. For the last number of years, I've been with the First Rand stable in various capacities, running investment distribution of the Momentum Group for a number of years. And then I shifted, I was CEO of RMB Unit Trust for a number of years. And then for the last 3 years prior to setting up the Collaborative Exchange, I was in fact working at RMI Investment Managers, where we're buying equity stakes in an eclectic mix of investment managers, from ethos on the one hand, on private equity, to core shares on the other hand, so completely across the efficient frontier. So my work background and experience is very much around let's call it the value chain in financial services. So, very well connected around platforms, connected around discretionary fund managers, domestically and international fund managers. And I have a very strong sort of, friends, in fact, and colleagues that in the wealth management, financial planning industry as well. So, I can talk with some sense of authority across those various constituents of the value chain.
Oh, sorry, that's amazing. The and the Collaborative Exchange itself, Kevin, what is it that you do?
Yeah,
or is that all part of it?
No, so I was very fortunate that a number of years ago, a very close friend of mine, Robert Phillips, ran a business called Thundermark. Thundermark ran, all the really big conferences in South Africa for the last decade, and he came to me and said, "Listen, he was going on to Chapter 2. He didn't know what Chapter 2 was, but if I wanted the intellectual property assets of the investment forum and meet the managers, I could take them." So effectively, I set up a business called the Collaborative Exchange. We do a number of things. It's not just event management we do. We publish a number of proprietary research papers. So we published South Africa's first independent platform survey. And we've done that in conjunction with the Financial Services Conduct Authority, with the Financial Planning Institute, with the Financial Intermediaries Association. And we're very close to publishing South Africa's first independent discretionary fund management survey, which again has been endorsed by the Financial Intermediaries Association. And we've worked across, regulator industry bodies to make sure that this information is in the public domain. We run a number of events. The investment forum is our flagship product. That's a really big production, as you can imagine. Meet the managers, we scheduled to do that in July, but we're looking to see if we should push that out to September. We also have a number of new properties we do in Poch, Nelspruit, Bloem, PE, and Port Elizabeth, investment think tank. We started that last year. And we're also seeding 2 new events this year, one in financial planning. It's called a Financial Planning Summit. And also something in the alternative space, the unlisted credit, ESG, infrastructure, private equity, hedge funds, aimed mainly at the sort of pension fund trustee, principal officer, corporate cash, life options balance sheets. So the business has 4 pillars to it. Event management is one component of it. The second will be strategic advisory and research. We do a lot of digital marketing as well for big corporations. And, we have a number of partnerships as well. So Asset TV is a partner to us, what we do in South Africa. The CFA Society also is a partner in anything we do. They're an associate sponsor. So we have a very strong, support base of collaborators that we work with across industry to support and provide services to a variety of different entities.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, I mean, that sort of explains also the name, the Collaborative Exchange, because this is really a collaboration with a lot of people that's supporting this. And obviously, and it sounds like you're also doing, it's not only South African based, you also do international work.
Yeah, so I work with all the global asset management firms, so if you go look at the top 20 asset managers globally, I think we work with about 7, if I remember correctly. But, if you look at most asset managers, so whether they're the large fund management groups in South Africa, whether in fact the boutiques, in some way or shape or form, we work with them, to try and provide, I suppose a gateway for them to reach market. And we do that, we use a phrase in our business quite strongly, saying that content is king, but distribution is queen, and she wears the pants. And that's, if you think about that in this modern world at the moment, there's a lot of content out there. As consumers, we're faced with more content than ever. If you look at the acceleration of data that's available, it's exponential. And, we think that we can provide a very efficient platform for both advisors to attend functions that actually bring, massive CPD points to them, but also bring rich content to them in a constructive way that they don't have to attend, 25 different, roadshows to actually get a really good understanding, insight into financial markets.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So on that note, I mean, you sort of started off with this whole investment forum 2020 thing. As far as I get the information via all the grapevines and that, it seems like you. On the Saturday, I think the Monday was supposed to start in Cape Town, and on the Saturday you made a decision to take this to convert this into a digital event. So why that decision? I mean, that could not have been an easy thing to do.
Yeah, there's a big story behind it, Francois, and obviously we're not going to have the time to go through it in great detail, but I 2 weeks prior to the investment forum, I attended a Goldman Sachs conference in Cape Town and also the Schroders conference in Cape Town, where they had in fact, the Goldman Sachs conference was held on Women's Day, and they had a very big contingent of women speakers. And the week thereafter, and of course, they had a lot of foreign asset managers out speaking at these particular events. And then the week thereafter, Sanlam Glacier effectively had their roadshow, the international roadshow throughout South Africa. And one of the portfolio managers, Mark Beckenstrater from Prudential M&G, was suspected of having COVID-19 that week. And on the Thursday, he phoned the number to try and get access to the services, and he couldn't get through. So he walked into a hospital and sort of stood outside the hospital waving his hands to sort of get people's attention. And eventually a nurse sort of came out with a mask, and he said, "Listen, don't come too close. I might have COVID-19. And they sort of said, "Well, go stand there on the side." And eventually the guys in the white suits came in and looked at all his vital signs. And it was very clear to the medical fraternity at the time that, he could well have had COVID-19. And he was asked to go and self-isolate. Now, he was from Cape Town. He couldn't check himself into a B&B or a hotel. So he phoned his brother, and his brother said, "No, pull into our house." And he said, "Well, I can't do that. You've got young kids." And so they set up a shack with him. In fact, they cleaned out the tool shed in the bottom of their garden and put a bed in there for 2 days, where they left food on the doorstep for him, and his brother came to the window at night and had a beer with him to try and talk him through this. But on that Friday, prior to us, leaving for Cape Town, a lot of the sponsors started saying to us that, should you be going ahead with this, knowing that Mark Beckenstrader could have been, socializing with, 1,000 advisors that week. And, what is the reputational damage that gets done if they find out that he's got COVID-19? So we also knew that there were 1,700 advisors that were registered for the conference that were very keen to get the content. The volatility index was at 80 times, so that's it wasn't at those levels, up until the GFC, the global financial crisis, and so markets were all over the show, and we felt that we also had a responsibility to take market content to advisors at this time. And so we left Johannesburg on the Saturday morning, flying down to Cape Town. And on the flight, I just said to my team, I said, guys, we can't do this. What are the unintended consequences of us running this event? And somebody's got COVID-19, and we put that into the crowding. We knew the government was going to make an announcement on the Sunday night as well. We thought that number would be 1,000 people that they would restrict crowding to. And we, on the plane, we spoke to the team and said, listen, why don't we do this as a digital event? Why don't we reach out to Asset TV, who was our partner, and said, let's run the agenda as we're running it. Let's get everybody in studio. Let's record it, and let's repurpose it into Asset TV. And you can imagine, so landing in Cape Town at lunchtime on the Saturday, we now had to make contact with 26 fund managers around the world, from Hong Kong, New York, London, Dubai, and say, guys, listen, we're cancelling the in-person event, but we've got a great idea. Let's do this digitally. And fortunately, we had a very strong support base to do that. And, we managed to achieve it. So, we put, 43 presentations onto Asset TV, 21 CPD points for anybody who wants to watch it, with a lot of additional benefits, in that process. So you can imagine it was we created a war room to do this. It was hectic.
So, then I want to ask, so if there's what was the one single biggest challenge maybe that you faced in that, or did everything actually go smoothly? Because you had to move quickly, and although you've got these partners, that are maybe rigged to do these kind of things, was there a challenge? And what was this one? Just if you can, because I can imagine there could have been a couple, but what was the single biggest one that you had to face?
I think for me, a time like this comes down to trust. I think fortunately we built up a relationship with our supporters and our sponsors that, we were equipped to do this. We had all the technical prowess to actually make it happen. But we had to convince people that they'd invested a lot of money, as you'd imagine, in order to sponsor this event, that we could actually convert this digitally and they would get still bang for their buck. So I think in times like these, I think this issue called trust comes into play, and professional integrity and quality. I always say that there's a triangular relationship in life that has three sides to it. It's time, quality, and cost. And if if any of those angles of that triangle are uneven, so if you want to do something in a lot quicker time, quality can go out the back door. And I think what we managed to do is to put together an HD kind of format, high definition, either their panels, I think that what I didn't tell you also is that Cape Town had a huge fire on that Saturday night, and in fact 3 of the fund managers that were supposed to that were to present on the Monday, their houses were burning down. They actually had hose pipes through their house trying to put out flames from the Cape Town fires. So we weren't just dealing with this thing from from one perspective. You were dealing it from multiple perspectives. There were new challenges being thrown in all the time. So I think trust, adaptability, flexibility, having a strong team around you of people that you trust, leadership. What we learned in leadership. That the war room we had 3 boards, and one was extremely urgent and important, and I was the only person that could actually put anything on extremely urgent, because you almost needed to make sure that you assign priorities and tasks according to the war room agenda. So yeah, it was hectic, but I'm very privileged to say that the personal growth I went through as an individual, and our team, as a consequence of this, has been profound. The learnings, the insights we had, and our stories, found shores in. I've been having calls in India this week. We work with a company called Cvent. They want us to get onto their webinars to talk about where events have been cancelled around the world, and what we did in order to turn adversity into opportunity.
It's amazing. I mean, really, from my side, well done. I can just think what goes on, and then you sit back afterwards and you think like, yeah, it's one of those things where I think it's hectic when you're in the storm, and then once it's done, because I guess that was a long week for you, because it was Joburg and it was Cape Town, right? And you did them separately. You still went ahead with both. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was amazing.
I also think, Francois, in times like these, your brain functions around this fight or flight mode, and I think mine, I'm proud to say that I think your neural patterns, are very much strengthened in this fight or flight mode. And I found that the sharpness of your decision making and it was very real. You were dealing with and I hate to say a life or death sort of crisis, but you were dealing with a critical event. And we didn't want to disappoint. We've got a very strong following for this event. We didn't want to disappoint the financial advisors that needed this content at this time.
Definitely. So, okay, so I want to move on, but yeah, just one last time, well done for what you've done. And I think this is setting the scene for a lot of things to come, and taking those learnings and say, how can we make it even better, and how can we do things that people really want and that they really want to consume. And that's sort of, I think, part of the conversation that I want to get into, Kevin, right now is to, I say there on the screen, lockdown, not shutdown. You see a lot of people putting this in their posts just to let people know, listen, we're still working. We may not be able to leave the home, but we're still operating. But you mentioned something to me where you said, the world is currently in repairs, and you said like in repair. And we had a quick conversation before this as well. So if I think about like the world is in repair, you also said, but however, we're open to network, and I sort of changed that, you said to networks, but I said to network, and then put the S in brackets kind of thing, because we're open to networking and making connections, but also to join networks and things like that. But what did you mean specifically when you said that?
Yeah, so Francois, I've got a whole slide deck. I think I took you through some of the data this morning, but so if you look at the data around the world at the moment about the number of people that are homing at the moment, I've got statistics which show you, if you look at the world population being about 8 trillion people, I think it is, if I remember correctly. It's either 6 or 8, I can't recall. But you look at the number of people that are now forced to work from home, and there are certain businesses that have no option other than to sit at home and take a holiday. And there are other businesses that need to adjust their models to ensure that they can continue to engage with their clients and create revenue streams in the future. So we've actually in this time we've used as a very productive time, and fortunately we've always worked from home. We don't believe in offices. We think they're overrated. We've been able to reach out and to build new capability sets. This opportunity, or this homing sort of thing, has given us the opportunity to look at our business model in its entirety. We now have already the capability that any of our conferences going forward, you can either attend it in person, which we would always prefer clearly, but if not, you can go to Shopping Basket and you actually can buy those sessions that are all recorded, and you can put those in your Shopping Basket and watch them CPD points, verified, so audited, verified CPD verifiable points, and you can do this in your own right. We have already a digital studio, which is phenomenal. It's called a green screen concept, but we can create a digital studio for anybody in the world that looks like the investment forum. And I've got examples again on my desktop that I could share with you. But we felt we weren't going to lie down now. We felt that this Warren Buffett, and I think you've all seen his many of his profound sort of statements, but he was saying, every once in one's lifetime it rains gold. Go and pick it up in buckets, not in thimbles. And so I think for those businesses that are sufficiently agile at the moment and can kind of reflect on their business model and take some sort of bold initiatives, those are the ones that are going to be successful in the future. You can't. I'm a big believer of the face-to-face value, and financial planning and financial advice is very much an intimate model. And I think people will flock back to that face-to-face interaction in due course. But I think we don't know how long this lockdown is going to happen and how protracted it might be. So don't just sit back and reflect on your clients being baby boomers now. What are the millennials saying? What are Generation X, Generation Y saying in the way in which your business models need to adapt to ensure that you remain relevant in the future as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to move on to talk about virtual client engagement, and I guess the place to start is to say, well, there's so many platforms that one could choose, and we've had some of those discussions on this show, and I've done training for people on different things, particularly on Zoom, etc. But then there's been all this talk about Zoom and their security issues, and we did an update on that, and we sort of shared our view with what we think. Should you go and consider something else or not? Now, I know that when you were looking at a platform to sort of use for client engagement, I mean, there were quite many of them that you had to look at and that you did look at, and a whole due diligence process, I think that one would go through, because you have to consider things like security and issues like that, because we talk about sensitive information in those sessions. What is the process that you went through to sort of decide? And I don't want you to say yet what you've chosen. I just sort of what is the process that you went through to get to a decision?
Yeah, I know, it's a good point. In fact, we didn't have much choice in this process, because what we needed to do in the first instance is to record fund managers that were sitting in Hong Kong to do a presentation. So we were recording them coming in. And Zoom was the only platform that had a HD recording capability set attached to it. So at the time, we had no option other than to use that platform. Subsequently, our businesses used that platform extensively, and we've been through the security protocols. And in fact, I invested some money in Zoom shares. If you saw, the share price went up 60% in 1 week. And then the following week, being they had this security sort of breach issue, they responded incredibly quickly. And in fact, Zoom is kind of co-owned by Facebook, and already the head of sort of security of Facebook has actually moved into Zoom as now. So they were very responsive to shutting down any kind of security issues. If you go and do a Google search on any of these platforms at the moment, you'll find there's always some hacker around the world that actually can penetrate these things. If you go look at anything and find hackers into that, you'll find. And I think this is quite a big issue too, because I think this trust issue, with the use of technology. I was on a call yesterday, on Amazon, for example's sake, and I felt quite uneasy, in the sense that I know, Facebook, Amazon, and that, kind of have the ability to, watch what we're doing now and put that into their algorithms and to use that, for their own purposes as well. So, I think you've got to think about all these things and the security protocols around it. I'm not so sure that everything is secure in this world we live in at the moment.
Yeah. So you already alluded to the fact that you chose Zoom in the end. So you're still using Zoom. I saw there was an update that came out, because obviously they had another webinar last night. So every Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, they've got Eric on to answer questions and things, but also to give an update of what they've done. And there was an email early this morning just detailing everything that they've done, and they're really, really taking action, and they're taking huge steps and quickly, and they're getting the right people and the right processes and things in place in order to make sure that I think they will be the most secure platform in a very short time. That's just my opinion, and that's what's part of the reason why I said, don't move away from Zoom. It's not necessary. Let's watch and see what they do. Because, if you look at how they positioned themselves when they got started versus now how people is using it now, that wasn't even on the cards at all. Yeah. And the sort of infrastructures and things that they worked in. So from my point of view as well, and I'll also, because they know a listed company, I'm just happy to hear that you invested into the right Zoom shares and not the wrong ones. But yeah, because they are a publicly listed company as well, they have to take that action. This isn't something you're going to bury, because this will kill your business. And any person who's serious about their business, won't do that. And I'm glad to see that we've been right so far. But as you say, all the systems have got their issues. It's just like the more popular, in Afrikaans we say die hoë bome vang die meeste wind. So it's exactly that. If the focus is on Zoom, you hear a lot about Zoom. If the focus was on GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, you would have been hearing about that. It's just how people get seen, I think. So,
just as a further endorsement of that, the Queen of England actually used Zoom to broadcast her speech. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Danny, my son is a photographer, was on a call this week with Vogue magazine, where they had Marc Jacobs on it and Stella McCartney on it. There's some really big organizations around the world. I mean, you find the banks are not using Zoom. We've got a couple of calls today, and people from like Nedbank can't get into Zoom. A lot of banks they're using Microsoft Teams as their platform. Mm-hmm. So there are these issues around, but certainly from a small business point of view, we like it because it's free. Free for a certain number of user groups. We have professional licenses that we can get 100 people at a time into a given conversation. But what we also find, Francois, is that even the capability set that we're using at the moment is just a fraction of what this platform can actually do.
Yeah.
So we're fulfilling its full potential at the moment.
Yes, absolutely. And so I mean, we've been using the webinar component of that as well because it's so easy and it's reliable. For me, the big thing about Zoom is the reliability. If I look at even with all the users that has gone up, I have not battled yet with that at all. So no issues, no connection or bad connections or anything like that. So obviously it's dependent on your internet connection, but I mean it's been solid. So for now I'm definitely staying as a Zoom client and as a Zoom proponent. But we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Eh?
Shares, Francois.
Just say again.
I'm not talking up the shares. Don't worry.
No. But so that's awesome. Then I want to get into a little bit of how talking about how people have changed the way that they use Zoom, or they've each come up with their own weird little way of using Zoom. I'm sort of noticing the same kind of thing happening to social networks, where suddenly they've become a bit more business focused, because now this is literally almost, for now, if you are in lockdown, the only way to connect and communicate, or the easiest way to still make people aware about what it is that you're doing. So are you also noticing a shift in terms of how these networks are being used?
Yeah, and I think this is probably what we call conversion 3, in the sense that these social media platforms have been primarily used for social media purposes in the past. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, etc., etc. And LinkedIn has been a bit of a disappointing platform in terms of and I was speaking to somebody just yesterday that actually met with LinkedIn. At the moment you can see activity on LinkedIn is not at the levels it normally is. When business is as normal, people are on their social media platforms. So. And again, I was having a discussion with my son, who's a millennial, last night, and he was sort of saying that these platforms are clearly can direct very specific messages to given audiences. And as a millennial, he's saying that's cool because he would never consider watching a DSTV, for example's sake, where you have this flattering of of advertisements being thrown at you, which has completely no significance or relevance to you. And he's saying, listen, I'm quite happy to give Facebook all my information because when they target messaging to me, it's appropriate for my needs at a given point in time. So you're definitely seeing the Facebooks, I think Convergence 3, actually evolving into a much more significant business platform. I'm certainly seeing my own profile, and the kind of stuff that I'm being solicited around at the moment is very useful. It's pertinent, it's relevant, and particularly in these times of this digital transformation, I'm getting some really cool, people soliciting to me that I find incredibly useful. So so definitely. Bear in mind, in South Africa, we always have this bandwidth issue. So you referred to it just now. We're not on. Not everybody's on 4G. Not everybody has fiber. You look at YouTube take up in South Africa relative to Facebook is the largest. At, I think 43% of South Africa actually on Facebook. Where if you go look at not Zoom, sorry, the video YouTube for example, like we actually got data on this. That the take up is particularly low because of the data consumption costs. I had a go at Vodacom again. They're going out to the government at the moment saying we're getting all these phones, which is honourable kind of stuff. But I'm saying at this time, should you not be lowering your data costs? Because that is it's the only way people can actually remain in contact with loved ones. And we know we've got some of the highest data costs in the world.
Absolutely. I attended a talk about a guy that's from Ireland or UK or somewhere. But anyway, so he's big on social media marketing and particularly videos and YouTube and things. And we were having lunch and he was answering questions and things there. And, somebody asked him a question about this and he said, YouTube is the place to be. And I was just thinking to myself, and I mean, I'm building my YouTube channel now and my YouTube subscriber base and everything, because I think if you can position yourself now already, it's cool, but I'm willing to invest into this. But if you're building something from scratch, it's not necessarily the place to start with. And particularly because of that, because he clearly doesn't understand what it costs here for a megabyte or a gigabyte, that kind of thing. And then also how you battle sometimes with connection. So I definitely agree that is a challenge for us. If I look at, I'm lucky because I spend huge amounts of time on YouTube, for example. It is the primary place where I do most of my media consumption. I'm off Facebook. Just particularly, I'm obviously very huge on LinkedIn. So it's interesting to get this sort of feedback and just to hear about the experiences, because this is where I think social networks and social media is going, is where they're getting better at putting relevant things in front of you. Things that are really, and it's scary to really think about it because they need to know a lot about you to be able to do that. And that's why I always said people jump up and down about privacy and, it's my private things and blah, blah, blah. Until you want something, then you offer that, like, take everything you want. Like, this is whatever you need, you can take it. And that's the thing. If you're getting value in return, you'll offer those things anyway, So it's interesting to see where things are going. But then my question is, Kevin, sort of how can financial advisors and wealth managers and those kind of people that we both serve, how should they be looking at social networks and social media at the moment, and how should they maybe be using it right now?
Yeah, so we kind of find, generally speaking, that the social media take-up and support that advisors have is not great. And we actually had a laboratory test the other day where we invited 12 managers into a laboratory. And we, in fact, we actually did some homework prior to that on their web interfaces and, their profiles on LinkedIn kind of stuff. And these were some really sizable, financial planning businesses, wealth management businesses. You found that their social media platforms were particularly poor. And particularly in times like these, the communication to clients is by the nanosecond at the moment. Clients are worried about their pension funds and their living annuity, their drawdown rates and capital erosion. So, you've got to learn to use technology, I think, in a much more efficient way to engage with your clients. We accept that not all clients, particularly baby boomers, are tech savvy. But there are so many profound ways that you can engage with your clients in a much more efficient basis. And I think we're all learning through this process. I mean, we run free Zoom workshops for advisors, how to use Zoom and to use the content we've purposed in Asset TV to run a session with your clients. We've got some amazing interviews. I mean, Kevin Lings was, you would know, as an economist from Stanley, was interviewing Dr. Lila Faree from the JSE, Marcel van Olok from Sorbosan Hotels, and Mark Salmon from Assupol, when the JSE volumes it quadrupled. And these guys are having a narrative and a discussion around the implications of COVID-19 on financial markets, lockdown, on tourism and travel. But also, Assupol was talking about mortality tables, the face-to-face models of the future. And you can use this very well because you can actually take those, those 45-minute dialogues, invite your clients into social media, into a Zoom call, run it, have a chat box, and how your portfolio is positioned with this in mind. I mean, there's such a rich array of content to do that, and to, I suppose, appease clients to some extent, to put clients that are fearful of how their pensions have been eroded, to put them at some kind of I suppose sense of that these markets can rebound very quickly, and as they have. It's all about time in the market at the moment. So I would strongly advocate advisors look, more intuitively at their complete social media. I'm not saying I'm not a big fan of Twitter, but certainly things like your professional profile on LinkedIn, using Zoom and technology of that to engage with your clients much more efficiently. Certainly these are tools that are available to us that we need to maximize during this, not just in this lockdown period, but I think the efficiency of doing client reviews online in the future, and going through the reports and putting in a video that, you can, is the latest video on, South Africa's economic affairs, or, whatever subject matter it is that you feel you want to share with them. This is very powerful stuff to use in client conversations.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Kevin. So with that as a backdrop, also just to maybe get some insights into, I know you said that you have some stats around, the different generations and social media. So possibly, are there particular networks that certain generations prefer, or is everybody everywhere? Is there any stats that you've got on that?
Yeah, so definitely, if you go look at the consumption of media in South Africa, there's some stats I've got on a slide here as well that I could share if you wanted to, Francois. But I think it's
You can, if you want to, you can.
Sorry, just bear with me. I'll just put it up for a sec if I can. I also do a lot of work, Francois, things like, I do a lot of work on sort of mergers and acquisitions that are happening around the world at the moment. And there's a very good report that's done by Echelon and Partners in the US, talking about these RIAs and merger and acquisition deal across the world at the moment. And, you can certainly see that these digital platforms, in the financial planning sphere, acquiring a lot of practices at the moment that, and they're looking for those that are well predisposed in that millennial segment as opposed to, clearly just the baby boomers. So, there's definitely, M&A activity in financial planning, at the moment. There's vertically integrated models are happening around the world at the moment. So, and a lot of the people are looking for the, the millennial segment as opposed to the baby boomers in these valuation models, clearly because the earnings flow and the duration of, where you can earn fees is much longer than just, baby boomer whose, average life expectancy might be 78.
And also, I guess, because wealth is going to start to flow to these younger generations now. So it's also about, keeping those relationships and building those relationships and understanding what their needs are, as opposed to the clients that we've gotten to know well really over the years. And I think the other challenge is obviously, and this is something that we all know, is that, just the age. I saw stats now in the week. There were stats that the number of people that's got that are CFPs, that are CFP, that are older than, I think it was 55 or something like that. There's more of them than there are for people that are younger than 30. So there is a problem with the younger advisors as well coming through. So it's not only about our advisors being able to start to work with younger people. It's like, how do we bring in more financial advisors and planners and wealth managers into this space, to make sure that the profession continues to grow and get better as well.
Yeah, great point there, and particularly, we work a lot with on the thing, where have all my clients gone? Because I've worked with Pam Golding on a particular project about the number of South Africans that have bought golden visas, in the last sort of year, into getting citizenship into Malta, Gibraltar, those sort of things. And they were saying something like 600 high net worth individuals actually bought properties in these jurisdictions to secure golden visas. So we've also seen, my wife's a teacher or has been a teacher, and the number of young parents, professional parents that have immigrated, is fairly as well. So you've got to kind of look at this and, do you have a follow my client sort of strategy, that you can provide advice to clients when they're now sitting in Australia or sitting in London or sitting, anywhere around the world. And it's an issue for South Africans, that they just don't have the capacity to always deal with those clients that have net immigration. And, if you look at millennials, and you look at their sort of mental patterns, they have a great distrust for, financial advice, for banks. Their preferred brands are the Facebooks and Amazon. They have a lot of confidence in those sort of brands relative to, to the established entities that, our parents and people like ourselves have worked through as well. So, you've got to make sure.
Yeah, sorry, I'm interrupting you. Is that true for South African Generation X and those guys as well, or is this a global stat or a global thing?
So there's not, South Africa's data sets are not great. Obviously the US, they measure everything. So most of the references are US based. There is some stuff, and in fact, in this, can you see the slide deck, Francois?
Yes, yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Can I just put through to one or two relevant sort of. I won't bore everybody unnecessarily. This is this whole homing thing that I spoke about earlier about the population around the world. This was a few weeks back, I think the 19th of March, where you saw about 2.5 trillion of the world's population actually working from home. The lockdowns have been extended. The countries that have that have extended the lockdowns is fairly significant. So those numbers have gone up significantly from that point onwards. Yeah. We spoke to you also about these particular properties, the various means you have to in fact communicate with your clients between voice and video, whether it's just messaging, bulk emails, for example's sake, and the whole webinar sort of thing. There's a lot of freeware that's available to run, all of these sort of platforms and not cost you a lot of money. And even if they do cost you, invariably it's like $10 a month or something like that. It's not necessarily exceedingly expensive.
Yeah.
Why we like Zoom is that it can, you've got a great chat box, it's high definition, you can share it with anybody, it can be very targeted, and it's free effectively. So, all the homework we did. This is the point I spoke to you about, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Looking at these, these social networks have actually now shifted into business networks due to social distancing. But I think it is, it's not a temporary phenomenon. This is, people will adjust to these mediums. I think on a, I'm not saying it'll be exponential, but I think there'll certainly be a shift, for that digital world. Probably, my wife's been ordering stuff online. I mean, prior to this lockdown, she always wanted to go to the shops, but she's relying on the convenience as online shopping actually, offers her. Yep. So definitely, these things will have some sort of impact across different sectors and societies. These are the sort of numbers we spoke about. So this is data we got from an entity called eMarketer and another entity called We Are Social, saying that if you go look around the world at the moment, there's about 3.5 billion people on social media, so 45% of the world's population. And if you look at the percentages, 90% of them are millennials, 77 Generation X, 48% baby boomers, and they're spending about 3 hours a day on social networks and messaging, but 54% of them use social media to research products. So if you're an advisor and you don't have a very strong, social media platform, you're not going to be in the search box for people that are looking for a financial planner or service. This is data very specifically on South Africa from Geostats Counter, where it looks at the South African population and the percentages that utilize Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram. And my point down here about LinkedIn, it's not really taken off, phenomenally, and it's not being used extensively at the moment for the reasons we've already shared.
Okay.
And my final slide, well, this is the point about it. If don't just build your social media in consideration for people that are using desktop, because 70% of mobile users, and this is by my broadband in South Africa, we've done this research, 78% or 70% are using their mobile devices. They're using it for things like search engines, for emailing. They use it while they're watching TV still. They watch it when there's the first device they go to when they wake up in the morning. 40% use it on the toilet, and 12% while they're driving. So these are things that that you've got to understand if you're building, your business and your model to ensure that you've got that depth of capability set to appeal to different user groups.
Yeah, I just want to mention that's very thorough stats if you've got the toilet in there as well.
I'd like to know how they research that, Francois. Help me. What do they say? Statistics, and damn lies, or something like that. So
yeah, I'm telling you, Siri is listening and the camera is watching. That's how they know. No, that's a little bit lightheartedness. Yeah, so lightheartedness. So I wanted to obviously talk about device preferences. So that you already spoke about now. So I just want to summarize that mobile is, you got to think mobile first. We've all heard this, where whatever you do, you got to sort of have a strategy of how can you reach your clients via mobile. And I see this even with some of the Zoom calls and things that we're doing. People are connecting via their phones because Zoom works perfectly on your phone. There's a lot of other ways that people are connecting via their phones. So there's a lot of reason, but it also means that, let's say, for instance, you've got a website, that website must look great on mobile. It must be built so that people can consume your website or browse a website or read the things on your website on their mobile phones. It doesn't help it that it looks great on this big screen, on TV or on your big screen on your desk or anything like that. It needs to look great on mobile. You've got to think about how you use it on mobile versus how you use it actually on your desktop, because on your desktop you've got a mouse, with the phone you've got your finger. You don't want to be clicking a lot. You just want to be scrolling because that's the easiest thing. So those are all little things that you need to sort of think about, when you do put out content and things like that. If 70% of South Africans are using their mobile phones, then it means 7 out of 10 people are using their mobile phones. So you need to think about that and strategize around that.
So that if you go look at our website, for example, say www.thecollaborative.co.za, that site's built by my son. Okay, so he's got no real. The millennials learn. They go to YouTube and they work things out. You don't have to pay a lot of money to actually build this capability set. There's so much freeware and around out there at the moment that it doesn't have to cost you an arm and leg to build these digital platforms. but you've got to make sure that it's part of your business strategy, and that you have, there's very definitive ownership over it. Because what we find is people, they build it and then they go away and they forget about it for 6 months, and you go on there and the market commentary is dated in October 2018 kind of stuff. You've got to make sure that and there's so much, rich content, free stuff you could share, amazing stuff, Francois. I took you some sites that you can pull data from that's free, accessible to share on your platforms. It's profound.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. All righty. So then I want to get into, sort of using content in conversations. And there I particularly want to see, like you were referring earlier to that people are using your content from the investment forum, from Asset TV as part of conversations with clients and ways to engage with clients. How are they doing that?
That's a very good question. So, at the moment, we're trying to teach advisors how they can use this. So, as I said, we ran a free session last week. We had 1,700 people register, so we sent them a letter saying, listen, if you'd like us to teach you how to use Zoom effectively in the conversation with your clients, we'll actually run a workshop with you. We will actually take you onto Asset TV, and we'll take you through, what content's on there and how you can share it with your clients and create these digital lounges kind of stuff. And it went down incredibly well. We're extending that offer. If anybody's listening today and they want to sit in one of those sessions, please just send me an email and we'll gladly add you to that list as well. It's not difficult to do. I mean, there's some stuff that's very pertinent around living annuities, some really good data around living annuities. There's some fascinating stuff around, the East versus the West, and more particularly about, how the East has, obviously China's production up to 60% capacity already, but looking at how countries responded monetary and fiscally to this crisis as well, where countries like Singapore have, poured something like 4% of GDP into liquidity in their system, where if you go look what the West has done, it's been a fraction of that. So, certainly the East again seems to be getting ahead of the West in terms of this sort of economic recovery cycle. So there's just, whether you're going to, fixed income, whether you're going to SA equities, whether you're going to SA balance funds, whether you're going to Reg 28 issues, it's a wonderful array of different subject matter that you could say, on this, for my clients, the most pertinent session is this. And you can invite your clients into a meeting like this and saying, you're going to share that video. It could be a 30-minute video. And then you have a chat box going kind of stuff, so how their clients' positions are contained, and you could do it on a one-on-one basis clearly, but it's sometimes much more efficient to invite maybe 5 clients into your lounge, your digital lounge, and have that sort of dialogue through. I know advice is very much a personal issue, and maybe people don't want to get into groups to have those sort of dialogues, but you've got this weaponry, at your availability. It's rich. It's from, let's call it, the experts, and share it with your clients. If what we did, Francois, is that obviously the 1,700 people that registered go into a closed. So you can't find this on Asset TV. It's the investment forum closed lounge, let's call it. But we also sent out an email last week to 18,000 additional advisors we've got on our database to say, listen, you can now buy the right to come into this lounge as well.
Yeah.
So everybody, any financial advisor can actually now buy the right to come into this and secure this content. And
where can they do that, Kevin?
If they go to that website, so www.theinvestmentforum.co.za, you'll see there's on the front page, there's 3 icons. The one is videos and presentations. And you just click on that, Francois, and you go through a registration process, and you effectively, there's obviously a payment you need to make, because we couldn't make, it's unfair for those advisors that pay to come to the conference now, for us now to make this content available to everybody free. It would be very unfair on those that have paid
absolutely
$17.50 to actually attend the conference.
Yeah, and also if you think about the value of this, I mean, you can't give this away for free. Is this the correct on the screen there? I've got it's www.theinvestmentforum.co.za. Is that the correct address?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted so that people can see it on the screen, and maybe if you want to refer back to the recording later, you can also then do that. Alrighty, so yeah, I think that's about it, Kevin. There's your email address, kevin@thecollaborative.co.za. So if people do want to get hold of you, or they've got some questions to ask, you can do that. So you can get in touch with Kevin via his email address. I think that's the easiest. And yeah, Kevin, is there anything, you know, like last words kind of thing that you maybe want to end off with from your side?
What I'd love to do, if you don't mind, is that, you know, in this conference, if advisors came to it, they would have sat down on day one and we would have showed an audiovisual introduction to the conference, you know, which was, you know, we phrased neural disorder. And this was a 70-meter stage, as anybody who's been to the investment forum in the past would have seen. You know, we broke it down in 2 dimensions, and it's a little bit of a storyboard of effectively. I started building this in October last year when it was all about geopolitics and trade wars and what have you, and then obviously COVID-19 started coming into the fore early on this year, and I'd love to leave the show, if I may, Francois, in kind of playing this audio visual as a close-up, because I think it has a message in it.
Yes.
You'll allow me that.
We can do that if you can share your screen in full screen mode. You know, or the video in full screen mode, but then just share your screen, and then we can do that. But before we do that, because I want to end off with that, you can get it ready so I can see it here on my side, Kevin. Then I will add it to the stream. But guys, yeah, just from my side, thank you very much. Tomorrow, just quickly before we share this video with you, tomorrow I have Kobus Klein. This is going to be a jam-packed session as well, and he's literally opening the Kobus kimono, if you will. He's really going to be sharing. I had a look at the things that we're going to be talking about, and he is sharing everything with you about how he's turned his clients into advocates and how he continues to do that. I think it's the first time that I would be able to sort of hear about all of this. Not even in the podcast we did he really get into all of this, the kind of things that he's going to share tomorrow. So please join us tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Sharp here when I speak to Kobus, and just see, we'll be sending everything out on social, obviously, and that after this my episode today with Kevin. So I just wanted to remind you of that. And yeah, Kevin, then from my side, thank you very much for being here and for joining me this morning. I think there's been a lot of interesting information and a lot of value. So thank you very much, and well done again on what you were able to achieve and do, and what you continue to do to sort of uplift, you know, what it is that we do and equip us to be able to do what we do a lot better. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Francois. I'm privileged to be on the session as well. And, you know, if we can help out anybody in these sort of times, I think that's what it's all about. So, you know, please feel free to reach out to us. And if we can help, you know, in any particular way we can, we'll certainly do that during these times, Francois. I think it's about giving unconditional love at this particular point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just maybe lastly, before you hit that play button, is now I forgot what I wanted to say. But yeah, I wanted to just sort of, I just wanted to ask you, Kevin, if we didn't have time to go through all the chats and the comments and things that's happening on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube. So if you could go back and just maybe look at specifically on LinkedIn at the comments, you know, just on the recording. It'll be on my profile so that you can engage there with people if I think they were asking some questions and things there. So if you could do that, that'll be great. Guys, sorry that we didn't have time for me to get into that, but we will respond to you on the comments during the day or during the rest of the week. So thank you very much for that, and take it away, Kevin.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for the daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere. And their tears are filling up their glasses. No expression, no expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny, I find it kinda sad. The dreams on which I'm dying are the best I ever had. I found it hard to tell you, I found it hard to tell. When people burn it It's a very